If you're starting your paramedic degree next month, first of all, congratulations, but you're probably wondering what you should be doing. Should you revise? What do you need to buy? Is everyone else being as prepared as what you are? So in this video, I'm going to be telling you exactly what I would be doing if I was starting my degree next month. What I would be buying, what I would be learning, what I definitely wouldn't be wasting my money on, and a bit about what you can actually expect in the first few months. Let's get straight into it. Welcome back to another episode of Paramedic TV. My name's Tommy and this is presented by PocketClinician. So if you are starting your Paramedic Science degree next month or in the near future sometime, then this video is for you. Starting something new for anyone is nerve-wracking, and because you're going into something that you really don't know what's going to happen, you might just be sitting here wondering what on earth should I be doing to prepare myself for this degree. So I'm just going to go through a few things that I would do if I was going to be starting my paramedic science degree again, so that hopefully you won't make the same mistakes that I did, but also you will know that you're probably doing the right thing. The first thing to mention is you don't need to know everything before you start. You've got to remember that you're going to uni to become a paramedic. You don't need to arrive as a paramedic. I get messages and emails from so many people saying, look, I'm meant to be starting my paramedic degree next month. Please, can you help me with understanding the 12-lead ECG or pharmacology? And I think just step back and relax, because you're going to learn all that stuff at uni. You definitely don't need to be sitting here revising that right now. You've got to remember that the degree is going to be 3 years long. Unless you're doing a master's degree, then it will be 2 years, of course. But there's still a long time to consolidate all of that knowledge, all of your experience that you're going to get over the course of those next few years to become the paramedic that you want to be. And also, you've got to remember that at the moment, you probably haven't worked on an ambulance before or in a professional healthcare setting. So you might not even know what you need to know. Which can probably cause a bit of confusion and overwhelm, which I totally get. So my advice to you would be, look, if you're in the UK, we're going through our 5th or 6th heat wave at the moment. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the long summer, because the next few years are going to be quite difficult. Relax, go out with your friends, spend time with your family, do the things that you really enjoy, so that when you do start your degree, you can get right into it without regretting the time that you wasted in the summer months. If you do get a few moments, then it might be worth going over some basic anatomy and physiology. I think that's probably the most you really want to be revising at the moment. Just go over the heart chambers and the basic conduction system, go over the cardiovascular, respiratory, neurological, gastrointestinal, genitourinary and musculoskeletal system, just to familiarize yourself with all of the different parts of the body and just a very basic overview of how they work. And that might give you a little bit of a head start in your degree, because most paramedic science degrees do start off with anatomy and physiology. So you could start that a little bit early, but I wouldn't stress yourself out about it. Remember that when you're doing your degree, that's your time to learn. That's your time to spend your evenings learning and revising with your heads in books, not on your summer holiday when the sun's out and it's lovely weather out there. I would advise buying this Ross and Wilson Anatomy and Physiology book. I bought this when I was a student and I've still got it now. They're quite expensive, so most people do sell them secondhand once they've finished their degree. So maybe just go on eBay or something and try and find a secondhand one, because I think they go for sort of 30 odd quid, I think. So yeah, they're not cheap, but for sort of every so often, if you want to do some anatomy and physiology revision, the Ross and Wilson Anatomy and Physiology book is the way to go. And I'm not sponsored, or I'm not plugging them or anything like that. This is just what I've used. One thing that you really do need to make sure that you can do is communicate. Now, obviously, we all talk to our friends and our family. It's really not difficult to do that. But what I see student paramedics struggle with the most, especially at the start, is talking to people. basic conversations with patients and even other crew members. So if there's one thing that you want to be doing is work on your communication. Unless you belong to like a drama club or something, what I would advise you to do is go to the pub or some sort of social setting where there will be elderly people by themselves. Okay, so a pub is a perfect example. Approach that person or go up to the bar like you're going to order a drink or something and literally just say, oh, hi, how you doing? Do you come here often? And spark a bit of a conversation. Obviously, don't be weird about it and try and ask where they live or whatever. You don't even need to know their name, but just those little gestures of communication will help build your confidence when it comes to going out on the road and talking to patients. Because honestly, you'll learn all of this knowledge about history taking and how to ask all these different questions and how to do all these physical assessments. But what they don't teach you at uni is how to talk to people. So the only way that you can really do that is by practicing. So yeah, honestly, it's so important. Go out to the pub, go to somewhere socializing and find an elderly person by themselves and just spark up a little conversation with them. And, you know, majority of the time, they will like it. They're not going to think that you're weird because a lot of elderly people, they're quite lonely. They do go to these environments to feel belonging, right? So by a young person coming up to them, having a nice little chat with them, might make them feel really good about themselves and might actually be the highlight of their day. You never know. But at the same time, it will help you with your communication skills and stop you from freezing in front of a patient when you go out on the road. So what do you actually need to buy? Now, you know, your TikTok or your Instagram is going to be full of paramedics that have jumped onto a bandwagon of creating a book or creating an app or something like that to try and make some money on the side. And don't get me wrong, they can be helpful if you need it. But don't go straight in and think, oh, that's a good deal, I might need that. I'm going to buy that book on ECGs or I'm going to buy that book on history taking or whatever, because you might not need it when you get to university. And that advice is coming from a paramedic who runs a business selling educational content to student paramedics. So the things that I would buy though, these are the things that you're gonna need. Get yourself a decent stethoscope. So I've got a Littmann stethoscope and it's done me since 2018. So 8 years and it's still in good nick. I mean, there's a little chip on the side here, but I mean, it doesn't really affect the way that it listens to people's hearts and lungs. And yeah, just try and find one that has the big diaphragm and then the small bell at the end. You don't need any funky shapes or sizes, just one with two sides and yeah, you'll be absolutely fine with this. Maybe buy a couple of pens, just like the black biros, just to sort of jot down notes if you need to. And whatever you feel you might need when listening to a lecture. So if you're the type of person who writes notes whilst listening to the lecturer, or whether you're someone that just sits there, listens and watches and just takes everything in, obviously you're not going to need a notebook for that. But either way is fine. When I was at uni, I didn't take any notes whatsoever during the lectures. I just watched the lecturer and try to take as much information in as possible before then going on to the next one or the next venture in the degree. I would also invest in like a decent water bottle, so like preferably like a metal one that is around sort of, try and get 1 litre at least, and one that's metal and keeps the water cool, because, you know, especially when you go out on placement, it might be a while before you can refill that water bottle. So try and get a fairly decent sized one that's quite durable, because it's going to be getting thrown around in the back of an ambulance or in the back of your rucksack whilst you're going to uni on the train or whatever. So yeah, a decent water bottle and also a decent lunchbox. I've got this one from Black and Blum, London, and it's literally just like a fairly heavy duty bag really, that's got a waterproof lining inside. And it's quite good because it keeps things cool. The only con is that it doesn't have like a zipped compartment or anything. And then the idea is that you fold the top down and clip it through this little clip here. But yeah, I mean, it works for me. It wouldn't work for everyone, but yeah, that's what I use to take my food to work. The university might provide you with some boots, but if they don't, then yeah, you want to get yourself a nice comfortable pair of black steel toe cap boots. Magnum do quite good ones, but I would hold off until you start university because they might actually provide you with these before you go out on placement. Apart from that, there are a few things that might come useful, like the trauma shears, the tough cuts, or the pen torches that you can get that have the different sized pupils on the side of the pen torch, but you know, I don't have my own ones, and I've survived. Your ambulance station that you go to when you do your placement will have those in storage. So yeah, you don't need to stock up on personal stuff like that. So definitely don't go out and buy a £300 stethoscope. They are a massive waste of money. And as a paramedic, student paramedic, you definitely won't need that level of technology within the stethoscope to do what we need to do. Your own observation kit, definitely don't buy that. You know, don't go to Boots and buy a blood pressure cuff or a pulse oximeter. You don't need these. Just use the ones that they provide you with at uni, and then obviously when you go on placement, the ambulance is stocked with equipment that takes observations on patients. So yeah, and there's definitely no need to buy any clinical equipment. I've seen students that have come to placement mentioning that they've bought cannulas and all sorts of different things, and yeah, you don't need to buy any of that. You know, your house is to live in. You don't want to make it look like a hospital. So yeah, definitely don't need any clinical equipment as well. Really, just start with the basics, and then if you find that you really want or need something later on, then yeah, then you can get it or ask for it for your birthday or something. Now, I've said don't worry about buying like the educational pocketbooks like ECGs, history taking, OSCEs, all of that stuff, because the university might provide you with these, and you might find that you're really good at ECG, so you don't need a pocketbook to reference to when you go out on placement anyway. But I thought I would share with you the PocketClinician placement survival guide that I created, and it really is everything that they don't actually teach you at university. It's got a few things in it that you might already know: 12-lead ECGs, history taking, question bible, and then the paperwork writing guide. But many students do come across problems on placement. So things like taking the lead on jobs is something that a lot of people struggle with, which they don't really teach you at university because you are always the lead clinician in your practice OSCE. So it's almost like people give you the lead role, but on the road, it works a bit different. You know, you need to work on actually taking the lead on a job to stop people from constantly taking over. The mentor survival guide, obviously, you know, just like every teacher at school, not every mentor that you're going to get on placement is going to be perfect. So yeah, this is just the guide that goes over literally how to deal with your mentor. Things like how to cope with problems, what to do if they say or do certain things in a certain way, how to deal with confrontation with your mentor. I know I've just said that you really don't need to buy everything you see online, but I thought I'd just share you with it. You know, I'm not saying that you should definitely get it, but I've popped the link down below in the description. So feel free to get that, and it will really help you out on placement. And as a thank you for getting through this far in the video, I'll give you a discount code if you want to get the placement guide. So go to pocketclinician.co.uk, go into the placement survival guide, and when you add it to your cart, just type in the code starting soon 20, and that will give you 20% off of the whole placement pack. So what is university actually going to be like? Well, you've got a few sort of aspects of the degree which are all quite separate, but when you bring them all together, it all makes sense why you need to do things this way to become a paramedic. So the first aspect of the degree is going to be the academic side, right? So you're going to be learning a lot about anatomy, the physiology, so how the body works, certain diseases and how they work and why they produce certain symptoms. You're going to be learning about evidence-based practice, but also quite importantly, which a lot of people find boring, even myself, is like law and ethics. There will definitely be modules where you are sitting in the lecture hall thinking this does not relate to paramedic practice whatsoever. What you've got to remember is that this is a degree as well as clinical training. So to be at a degree standard, you're going to need to do things like essays, dissertations, certain parts of coursework on the academic side. as well as just learning the clinical skills. You've then got the simulation aspect of the degree. So you're going to spend quite a lot of time looking at a plastic dummy, and you're going to be practicing CPR, airway management, your abdominal assessments, and these are the best ways of learning for a lot of people, because by getting the muscle memory of the step-by-step process of, say, running a cardiac arrest or conducting an abdominal assessment, the best way of learning all of that is to practice it on a dummy. They can't have like 200 patients to queue up for you just to all practice listening to lungs. So, you may as well learn it on a dummy before going out on the road. Initially, you will feel really silly talking to an actual mannequin, but honestly, throw yourself so deep into it. I'm lucky that I've got a lot of background as a child and a teenager in like drama and theatre and stuff, so I was quite happy doing that. But yeah, it does feel uncomfortable talking to essentially a bunch of plastic that's been drilled together, but by practicing the words that you use and the process of, like I said, doing an abdominal assessment, it will really, really help you out on the road. Literally, you will find yourself towards the end of your degree apologizing to the mannequin if you like accidentally hit the arm with your leg, or if you rip the ECG stickers off of its chest. You might go, "Oh, sorry if this hurts," and it sounds ridiculous because you are chatting to a plastic dummy, but it's really good. If you can chat to a plastic dummy, you can chat to anyone, right? So yeah, don't feel like you're an idiot or that you're stupid for doing that. It's really good to, like I said, throw yourself in the deep end on these plastic dummies. And then the last aspect of the paramedic degree is your clinical placement. So these will most likely be on an ambulance, and then sometimes you'll have these in a hospital or in a care home or in a stroke unit somewhere. And the idea of this is to get real world experience and knowledge from the actual place where patients are seen, right? So it's going to be really beneficial to go out on an ambulance, obviously, because that's the job that you're going to be doing when you finish your degree. But yeah, throw yourself into placement. It's going to be nerve-wracking because you're like, oh my God, I'm going to actually be on an ambulance. But once you've done a few weeks, you'll feel a lot more comfortable with the process of how everything works. Just take one day at a time and you'll be absolutely fine. So when you go to university, you are going to be in what's called a cohort. Now, that is a group of people that have all started at exactly the same time as you, and you will hopefully go through your whole journey as a student paramedic with them, and then finish with all of those guys and girls, and then you'll graduate with them. You're going to come across people who have a lot of experience in healthcare. They could have been a healthcare assistant in a hospital for the last 10 years, or they could have even been working on an ambulance as like an emergency care assistant type role for the last 10 years and have decided, you know what, I'm going to take the jump and I'm going to go to university to become a paramedic. You might meet a 50-year-old who has just come out of a 30-year career in finance or in sales, and has thought, you know what, I fancy a career change, I'm going to do a paramedic degree. And then I imagine most of the cohort will be people aged around 18, 19, 20 years old who have just come straight out of sixth form or college, ready to start the degree. There will be people in your cohort who come across really confident and like they're going to be the best paramedic when they qualify. And there's going to be other people who are quite quiet or quite subtle, and who might look like they won't really progress well as a paramedic. But don't be put off by the really loud or confident ones, because quite often they're the people who don't do so well on ambulance placement because they've just got a poor attitude towards their learning. There is no way that you can have a look around your cohort and say, right, they're going to be good, they're going to be good, nah, they're going to be rubbish, they're also going to be a bit rubbish, and they're going to be quite good. Because, you haven't seen what they're like in front of a patient. You've only seen their essay exam results, their OSCE marks, or how they talk to a mannequin. You haven't actually seen them talk and assess and treat a patient in real life. And that is what it all comes down to at the end of the day. There's things to worry about and things not to worry about. So let's go through the things that you really don't need to worry about. So firstly, don't worry if you've never worked in healthcare before. It doesn't matter. Obviously, the more experience you get, obviously that will help you out. But there will come a point where if you spend too long in healthcare, you might feel too confident, and that might inhibit your learning. So, sometimes it is better off to start straight from scratch. I went out on the road with no previous healthcare experience, and I did all right. Don't worry if you can't interpret a 12-lead ECG. Don't worry about it. You don't need to know how to interpret a 12-lead ECG. In fact, I would say in your whole first year of being a student paramedic, 12-lead ECG interpretation isn't the be-all and end-all of being a paramedic. You might need to know a few basics, but, you can learn that through your degree. Don't worry if you can't interpret a 12-lead ECG. Don't worry if you don't know all the drugs. You don't need to know all the drugs. They're going to teach you that at university. Don't worry if you're feeling like a bit nervous talking to patients. You can work on that. You've got 3 years or 2 years, depending on what degree you're doing, to go on placement and really practice talking to people, listening, getting stuck in with those communication skills. Don't worry if someone in your cohort knows more than you. The thing is, getting really good grades in your essays or your dissertation doesn't mean that you're going to be a really good paramedic. It's actually the way that you talk to people and the way that you act, how professional you are, your attitude towards the job. That is what makes you a good paramedic. When you get to uni, don't worry if you don't get that immediate sense of belonging, because everyone is new. There's going to be a few people that split up into their little friendship groups, and that will take them through their degree. But even if you're the type of person that actually is a bit segregated from a few groups, then don't worry about it. Just take things at your own pace. Talk to people, enjoy the degree, and try not to think too much about, socially getting involved with your cohort if, everyone is split into groups. The chances are, though, after a few weeks, you'll definitely make friends and you'll definitely get yourself into those friendship groups and you'll feel a lot more comfortable. But yeah, in the first few weeks, people will find friends quickly and other people will take a bit longer, and that's completely normal because it takes a while to go around and actually get to know 30, 40, 50 people that could be in your cohort. And then lastly, don't compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 10. There's going to be people in your cohort, like I said, who have healthcare experience. They will naturally get better grades in their practical assessments or even some of their essays if it's to do with reflective practice or experience out on the road or whatever. But you just got to remember that you are on your own journey. Yeah. So just because someone has progressed a bit more than you, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be any good. So the month before you start uni, this is what you want to be doing. In the first week, I'd be sorting out like the practical stuff. So, what clothes am I going to take? Is there anything I need to do with uni regarding occupational health or DBS, driving license checks? And also your finances, because they're going to be quite important to be able to manage, especially if you're living away from home. In the second week, I would get the anatomy and physiology book and maybe just do some very light reading, going over the basic anatomy and physiology of the body, just to give you that little head start when you start uni. In the next week, I would be getting my bag sorted. I'd get my lunchbox and my water bottle, all of those equipments that I need to be taken to university and then ultimately out on ambulance placement. And then the last week before you start uni, hopefully you won't need to be doing anything. You'll be set up in your flat or wherever you are and, just enjoy yourself. The university will run freshers weeks and nights out and loads of social events that you can go to. And, they even do quirky things. I play chess, so there might even be a chess club at your university, netball team, sports. There's so many things that universities do to help you get into the extracurricular activities. So I hope that this video helped you with the anxieties or knowing what to do before uni. And hopefully now you've got a little bit more confidence in actually starting your paramedic science degree. It is really exciting. You should really enjoy it. And honestly, it's a job like no other. It's really good fun. and yeah, you won't regret this degree. There's going to be times where you feel like you want to give up, and there's going to be times where you feel like really low. There's going to be times where you feel really stressed out, but there's also going to be times where you feel really happy, really excited, really enthusiastic to finish your degree and become a paramedic. I would just say get help when you need it, and help others when you see them struggling. If you're starting your paramedic degree soon, why don't you pop in the comments what university you are studying at, because I can guarantee there's probably someone out there watching this video that is on exactly the same course as you. And if you're watching this and you're already a student paramedic that's just finished their first year or second year, or even if you're a qualified paramedic, just pop one little bit of advice down in the comments, just so that for those brand new people reading, they can sort of try and build as much confidence as possible before starting their degree. And if you're still watching this, then you must be in the job somehow, whether you're about to start your degree or whether you're a qualified paramedic. Paramedic TV is for you. So press that subscribe button and see the weekly videos that are coming out, all to do with mess room chat, surviving ambulance placement, difficult paramedics and what they get up to on jobs. There's all sorts of things that I'll be talking about, as well as getting some decent guests on. Apart from that, enjoy the heat, look after yourself, drink some water. I've been Tommy, and this is Paramedic TV.